when my dad's voice cracked through the phone with the words, "I used your college fund to pay off my loans. You didn't need it anyway." I swear something inside me snapped so loudly it drowned out the rest of the world. I remember staring at the faded curtains in my tiny overseas dorm room, feeling like the universe had slammed a fist into my chest. He said it so casually, like he was telling me he ate the last slice of pizza. Not the money I'd spent my entire life believing was waiting for me. The money I relied on to come home and finally start the future I'd been killing myself to prepare for. And the worst part? He spoke as if I should understand, as if I should accept the betrayal like it was nothing. Tell me, was I wrong for what I did next? Because even now, I don't know if it was justice or if anger took over me completely. Let me know if you would have done the same thing. I guess I should start from the beginning, because none of this would make sense unless you knew what my life looked like before it blew apart. Growing up, my dad always acted like he was the responsible, self-sacrificing parent. He had this habit of making everything about his struggles, his long hours, his debts, his broken dreams. Yet he constantly reminded me that he was putting aside money for my college. It was the one thing he bragged about. He'd say things like, "When you graduate university because of me, remember who made it possible." Or, "I didn't get the chance, but you will, thanks to your old man." He'd puff out his chest proudly. And I believed him. I believed every single word. My parents divorced when I was 11, and I stayed primarily with my dad because he insisted he could provide more stability. My mom tried to fight for custody, but he won by painting her as irresponsible. I didn't know then that he'd been manipulating the entire situation. When I look back, I realize my mom never stopped fighting for me, but she lost because my dad could lie without blinking. Even with all his flaws, I clung to the idea that he at least cared enough to secure my future. My college fund became the symbol, in my head, a promise that all the instability and stress would eventually pay off. By the time I turned 18, I had the chance to study overseas for 2 years before returning home for university. It was supposed to be the adventure that kicked off the rest of my life. The plan was simple: complete the overseas program, return home, enroll in the university my dad and I picked together, use the fund he'd been saving, and move forward. Life, of course, decided to throw a grenade into all of that. Living abroad was freeing, overwhelming, exciting, and exhausting all at once. I was doing part-time jobs, studying intensely, and trying to keep myself afloat because my dad said I needed to learn responsibility and he'd only send money if absolutely necessary. I didn't complain. I thought it was fair. I thought it made me stronger. But then the financial pressure started piling up. I was skipping meals sometimes, working crazy hours, and still managing to attend classes. Whenever I told my dad things were tight, he'd just say, "Don't worry. This is temporary. Once you come back home, your college fund will cover everything. Just hold on." I held on to that like a life raft. Then came the call. I remember it was raining outside, the kind of drizzling that makes everything feel heavier. I almost didn't pick up because I was studying for an exam. But when I saw Dad flashing on the screen, I answered thinking maybe he was checking in. Maybe he was going to surprise me with some extra money for groceries. Instead, he opened with, "So I have news. You might get mad, but I had no choice." Every part of me tensed, but I didn't expect what came next. He said he'd use the entire college fund, every cent, to pay off his personal loans, which I didn't even know existed. He told me it was stressing him out, weighing him down, ruining his life, and he needed peace of mind. He told me I was resourceful and smart enough to figure things out on my own, and that college isn't everything. He even laughed and said, "You can still go later if you save up. You young people are so dramatic." Dramatic. That was the word he used when he took away a decade of promises. I was shaking so hard I felt like my bones were vibrating. I asked him why he didn't talk to me first. He said, "Because you would have said no, and I needed this more than you did." Like my future was a luxury item he could pawn. After that call, everything in my overseas program started slipping. I couldn't focus, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop hearing his voice telling me the money wasn't mine, that even though it had been saved under my name, it belonged to him because he earned it. I ended up talking to my mom for the first time in months. When I told her what happened, she was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then she said quietly, and with this grief-soaked exhaustion, "I'm so sorry. I tried to fight him on that years ago. I didn't understand." That's when she told me the fund wasn't even his doing. it was mostly from her. She'd put away money since I was born, even when she couldn't afford it, even after losing custody. She said the account had both their names, and she put trust in him not to touch it. She thought he wouldn't hurt me like that. She was wrong. My world tilted even harder hearing that. All this time he'd acted like he was the hero saving for me, but he'd been spending my mom's sacrifices without blinking. For weeks I felt stuck, ruined, furious, betrayed, and helpless all at once. I considered dropping out of my program early, but I knew that would only make everything worse. So I pushed through and finished the overseas program, all while carrying this burning pit inside me. I didn't tell my dad goodbye. I didn't tell him when I came home either. I just showed up at my mom's door with my luggage and collapsed into her arms. Before I tell you what I did next, I want you to pause for a moment. If you were in my shoes, if someone you trusted took your entire future and shrugged like it was nothing, what would you have done? Would you confront them? Cut them off? Get revenge? Let me know, because at that point I was standing at a crossroads, and every path felt justified. So comment what you'd do before I tell you the choice I made. When I finally decided to confront my dad, I didn't go alone. My mom insisted on coming with me, not to protect him, but to support me. We drove to his house, and I rehearsed the speech in my head the whole way. But when I stood in front of him, all the words evaporated. He smiled when he saw me, like everything was normal. He actually tried to hug me. My mom stepped between us. The moment she raised her voice, the mask cracked on his face. She demanded he explain himself again, this time with me present. He rolled his eyes and said I was overreacting. He said he'd done what any reasonable parent would do, said debt was suffocating him. He said if I really loved him, I would understand. Then he said something that set both me and my mom on fire. He said, "It's not like she was guaranteed to succeed in college anyway." I have never seen my mom so angry. She told him the truth, that most of the money was hers, that she'd entrusted him with it, that he had stolen not only my future but her years of sacrifice. He didn't even blink. He actually tried to justify it, saying she owed him because he'd taken care of me full time. He said the fund was rightfully his. Hearing that, something snapped inside me for the second time. I told him he didn't deserve to be in my life, that he wasn't a father, that he was a thief who hid behind excuses. He laughed, actually laughed, and said, "You're being dramatic again." That was the last thing he said before my mom pulled out a folder she'd been keeping for years. Documents, account, statements, evidence. She'd come prepared. She told him she was taking legal action, not for herself, but for me. And she did. The case was long and ugly. My dad fought dirty, lied his way through every hearing, blamed everyone but himself, but the documents didn't lie. In the end, the court ruled in my mom's favor. My dad was ordered to repay a portion of what he took, even though some of it was unrecoverable. The judge actually scolded him for abusing. A joint account meant for a child's future. He walked out looking like the world had wronged him. As for me, I cut him off completely. No calls, no messages, no visits. He tried contacting me a few times, switching between guilt-tripping and rage, but eventually he gave up. The aftermath wasn't easy. I still had to rebuild financially. I took jobs, applied for scholarships, and with my mom's help, I eventually enrolled in college a year later than planned. It wasn't the path I expected, but it was mine. I fought for it, earned it, carved it out of the rubble he left behind. Now, years later, I look back and I don't feel anger as sharply anymore. It's more like a ghost. Still there, still cold, but distant. What hurts most isn't the money. It's realizing the person who should have protected me was willing to sacrifice me for his comfort. If you stayed with me through this whole story, thank you. If you are on my side, like this video, if you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. And tell me in the comments what you think about everything. Was I justified? Should I have handled it differently? I'll see you all in the next story.